5 burning questions here on the Huddle Up Podcast feed. It's me, it's Mike B. I'm here to talk about 5 burning questions for this weekend in the world of football here on the Huddle Up Podcast. If you haven't already, please follow us over on our YouTube, Huddle Up Podcast, as well as our Facebook, Blue Sky, TikTok, all at Huddle Up Podcast, Instagram at Huddle Up Podcast Inc., and over on the Twitch, Huddle Up Inc. Those are our major hubs for all things Huddle Up Podcast. Now, let's dive into 5 burning questions. Last week, the bet did not go our way because the Cincinnati Bengals decided to, for a lack of better terms, poop all over themselves. This week, the 5 burning questions are going to be a very locked in 5 burning questions. At least the back 4. The first one will be NFL driven. The back 4 will be the official preview of what Jim and now myself I believe are calling the College Football Invitational, because you have to be invited to play in those things. Same concept, 5-minute timer. We're going to get in and out of here real quick with the 5 burning questions. If I don't go the full 5 minutes, you guys get out of here a little extra early. I do have the bet, as always, for the end of the show. Without any further ado, let's get into question number 1. Is the Chief dynasty really over? And I think that's a question that not a Chief fan, Bengal fan, as you guys know from listening to me over on Huddle Up Proper, have not been the biggest Chief supporter. I'm not Ernest E.J. Christian. That's one of his 37 teams. But I will say this, I don't necessarily know that the Chief dynasty is over, but I do think the Chief dynasty needs to be retinkered. I think there's some issues here. There is a world where you're not going to have Patrick Mahomes until week 2, week 3. Me, myself, I think he'll be back at opening day. So that's why I don't necessarily know that you have to. Excuse me. As I do this super early in the morning. Just took my kid to school, so apologies there. But we're now in an issue where that $450 million that's still stashed away to Patrick Mahomes, with 63 of it guaranteed. We're running into some issues of they're not going to have any money to spend. Chris Jones, $158 million. That ends in 2028. Maybe there's a thought process there of maybe we move on from him. But then the issue with that is you're losing your best player. Myself and student of the game Kyle Nash have told you on this podcast and Huddle Up Proper and the student of the game, Ding, that Chris Jones is the best player in Kansas City, not Patrick LeVon Mahomes II. And if you don't believe us, that's a you problem. But where do you fix this team? Where is the major flaw? Well, that's what I'm here to tell you. The flaw is this. For the first time in his career, Patrick LeVon Mahomes II is playing behind a worse than Joe Burrow offensive line. This Chief offensive line is not good. It's not quick off the ball. It's sloppy. It's not very well held together. And for an Andy Reid offense, that's a problem. So if you're trying to fix the Kansas City Chiefs, and maybe you do have to let a person or two go. Maybe you need to let a George Karlaftis and his $88 million walk. Maybe you need to let Nick Bolton go. Because 3 of your highest paid players, Trey Smith, Jawan Taylor, Creed Humphrey, offensive linemen, they have not lived up to those contracts. That's a problem. Nick Bolton hasn't lived up to the contract. And I know you're going to tell me, but there's injuries. You're right. But every team has dealt with injuries at some point in this season. So how do you fix it? It's the offensive line. How do you address it? You figure out where your flaw is and you fix it. there are going to be some guys that have become available. Jonah Williams is available out of Arizona. You can go the veteran route, bring in Kevin Zeitler. He's in Tennessee the last year of his contract. Connor McGovern, the center in Buffalo, could become available. Then you look at some other teams that may move on from guys. Evan Neal in New York, Ted Karras in Cincinnati, if they decide that it's time to move on from the veteran there. Cordell Volston, if the Bengals don't re-sign him at 31. Then there's some other people. Larry Borum, Miami, 26-year-old. Get some youth in there. Mix in the youth with the guys that you have. Build an offensive line around this guy. Because the problem is this. He's been able to do something that only really one or two other quarterbacks have done. I'm looking at you, Thomas Edward, Patrick Beaver Brady, and I'm looking at you, Peyton Manning, which is win games with an average at best offense without the flashy name at wide receiver or running back. Thank you for your service, Travis Kelce. But if you don't take a severe pay cut, retire, because I don't think you come back to Kansas City. Because I think this team has to spend that money elsewhere, get themselves under the cap, and rebuild that offensive line. That's the 5-minute timer right now that just went off. So that is the timer for this topic. We now move to question number 2. Alabama, Oklahoma. That is the night game tonight in the College Football Invitational. The line for that game, as of right now, currently sits at Oklahoma -1.5, over under 40.5. These two teams met earlier this season. And to say it wasn't pretty would be an insult. 23-21 was the final. Oklahoma, the only points in the fourth quarter is they kicked a field goal with 2 minutes left in the ball game. No, I'm sorry. With 13 minutes left, that drive was 2 minutes to go up 23-21. Neither team scored the rest of the way. I don't think Alabama should be in this game. I don't necessarily think Oklahoma should be in this game. If you go back and look at this game, Alabama 3 turnovers, had 406 yards of total offense. Oklahoma only had 212. Both teams were putrid on third down. Oklahoma 3 for 13. Alabama 5 for 13. Alabama had the time of possession 34 minutes, 28 seconds to 25 minutes and 32 seconds. Mateer had 138 yards through the air. Ty Simpson, 28 of 42 for 326 and a touchdown. Hill for Alabama out of the backfield, 15 carries for 60 yards and 2 scores. Yeah, I don't think this game is going to be good. Smart that you put the 2 SEC teams on a Saturday night, or excuse me, on a Friday night against no other games, because this is putrid. I don't think this game is going to be good. Both of these teams are limping into the College Football Invitational. After the win against Alabama, Oklahoma defeated Missouri 17-6, and a coachless LSU team 17-13. Not great, Bob. Not great at all. They've lost 2 games, both in the SEC. One of them to another CFI team in Ole Miss, and a team in Texas that got left out, which they lost 23-6. And if you look at Alabama, you're going to tell yourself, well, it's Nick Saban. Wrong. It's Kalen DeBoers and that offense, which has been less than good. 20-9 against LSU, survived South Carolina the week before, 29-22. The loss to Oklahoma. Cool, they put up 56 points against Eastern Illinois. I also watched this Alabama team go for it on fourth down to survive 5-7 and 1-7 in the SEC Auburn. No, I'm not. I'm good. I'm good on all of that. I don't think this team is any good. I don't think this team is going to figure it out. That being said, you got to figure, what do you do here? What do you take with the lines? What do you take with the betting stuff? And I think at this point, I'm telling myself I'm taking the under The under in this game currently sits, according to Hard Rock Bet here in beautiful Florida, it's 40.5. I know they scored over 40, but neither one of those teams looks good. So that being said, I will take. I don't want to take either of these teams, honestly. If they could tie and both be eliminated and give whoever a bye, I would. But unfortunately, that's not an option. So with that being said, the formal prediction here from yours truly, I will go. I'm going to go Oklahoma and an under. I'm going to take Oklahoma money line just because one of those weird, like, oh, cool, a last second field goal or something like that we've run into before gets it into a 2-point game. The line's 1.5. So, yeah, I'm going to take Oklahoma, but I will take them money line, and I will take under 40.5 for the score. That is game one. That is question number 2. Let's go to question number 3, where we will discuss the Miami Hurricanes and the Texas A&M Aggies playing in the two teams that beat Notre Dame Invitational leg of the College Football Invitational. This game taking place in College Station. A&M minus 2.5, over under 48. I don't necessarily hate this game as much as other people that are on this docket. Looking at you, the Nice brothers. Not that I think you guys are wrong, because Notre Dame being left out because of Miami, but I also think that their bigger gripe is Alabama, and I think we've heard that before. The reason why I think I give Texas A&M the advantage here, it is the quarterback play. And I know you're going to tell yourself, but Miami has Carson Beck. You're right, they do. And Carson Beck, great quarterback in his own right. But go back and watch that Carson Beck game against Louisville. Pressure, and more pressure. He had that issue when he played at Georgia. That's why they built that offensive line as well as it did. He doesn't deal well with the pressure coming off the edges. He gets flustered. He makes bad decisions. The ball floats. It gets intercepted. That being said, I think A&M causes a little bit of havoc. I think they cause a little bit of disruption. Oh, and by the way, they still have Marcel Reed at quarterback. That's the thing you have to watch out for. That's the thing that's going to be explosive. I think both of these teams could go out there and blow the doors off of each other, but I also think they could go out there and lay eggs. I'm going to sit here and tell you that I think that Texas A&M top to bottom has the better roster, but I do think Miami has the better wide receiver in Malachi Toney. I think he's one of the best receivers in all of football. But at this point, the turnover game is the issue that I'm more worried about than anything else. And I think that's the problem. The problem is right now, I think Texas A&M is the cleaner football team. I think they're the more sound offense. I think that things run better through the A&M offense right now than the Miami offense. This is no offense to the Miami offense, aside from Carson Beck, because they go as he goes. But the problem is his last couple goes haven't been that great. They've survived. They've won the games that they're supposed to, with the exception of both of their losses because of how bad the quarterback play was. And they're going to tell me, but they lost 26-20 in overtime to SMU. Yeah, what happened in that game? Carson Beck threw an interception in overtime. Not good. So that being said, the prediction here for this game, I am going to take Texas A&M. I will take them minus the 3, slight under. I could see this game being 24-20. I could see this game being 27-20. Maybe a late touchdown from Miami to get it to that score. I think the game's going to be good. I think it's going to be competitive. I think it'll be more entertaining than the Friday night game. It's probably game of the weekend because of what's going to happen after, according to some. Man, I don't know. I think this one should be good. So with that being said, the formal prediction, A&M -3 and the under. Now, the last two games of the docket and the last two questions of the 5 Bern'in Questions have a little FBS in them. And that is because the group of 5, the next group after the blue bloods of college football. There have been 6 rematches this season, and in 5 of those instances, the loser of the first game has won the second game. The only difference? The Big 12 title game, where BYU got smoked again. Oregon State and Washington State. Oregon State won the first time. Wazoo wins the second one. Alabama wins the first one against Georgia, gets boat raced in the SEC title game. Virginia beat Duke and then loses them in the ACC title game, partially causing Notre Dame to not make the playoffs. More on that you heard last week. Miami of Ohio beating Western Michigan by 9, lose to them by 10 the next time through. Jacksonville State wins by 9, loses the conference title game to Kennesaw State by 4. This game is tricky because neither one of these teams have their coach. And that's a problem because I think if there's a team that needs their coach the most, it's Tulane. I think if Tulane had Summerall, do I think it makes it that much of a difference? Probably not. But I do think that I like Tulane more if Summerall was staying in New Orleans. These two teams played in week 4. It was a 45-10 win by Ole Miss. ESPN says in their preview of the game that the Green Wave couldn't have played any worse. They didn't have their starting left tackle in Derek Graham. Jake Retzlaff completed faced pressure on 40% of his dropbacks and was forced to scramble consistently. It wasn't great. He was 5 for 17 for 56 yards. But 3 games later against Army, facing the same amount of pressure, 22 of 29. I know you're going to tell me, but Mike, there's no way that Army and Ole Miss are the same. And I'm going to say you're absolutely right. But it was the defensive pressures that he faced, not per se the talent of the pressure. I know that this was another weird one. Austin Simmons, the quarterback at the time before this game, injured, was replaced by Trinidad Chambliss. Chambliss has been the starting quarterback ever since for Ole Miss. I think when I look at it right now, Tulane's big thing since this game has been they've changed the entire format of their defense. They went from running 4 D linemen and having less D-backs on the field to having more explosive players, like better defensive backs out there. They ran off 5 straight against some pretty good teams in Memphis and North Texas. They're not trying to beat teams by pressuring them into mistakes. They're just trying to get stops, tackles, If they can get a win, by getting a team to have a bad turnover, they're taking the effect and they're going down the field and they're scoring, which is a major step in the right direction. The official line in this game is Ole Miss minus 17.5. The over-under is 56.5. And I'm going to take Tulane plus the points here because Summerall's loss hurts Tulane, but Lane Kiffin, I don't want to say quitting on this team, but leaving this team before their biggest game of their season to go coach at a in-conference rival, I don't know that this Ole Miss team's going to be ready to go off rip. I'll take Tulane, and I will take the over of 56.5. And last but certainly not least is the 7:30 game. JMU at Oregon. The line here in this game is Oregon minus 30. I'm sorry, minus 21.5. Over under is 47.5. I don't think this one's going to be good. No disrespect to James Madison, winner of the Sun Belt. I watched them belt to ass the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers. Obviously, the team that I have most of my alliance to in college football. But that being said, I think the Oregon Ducks here are going to go full-fledged belt to ass. And I think Oregon rolls. Again, no disrespect to James Madison. They earned the right to be here by finishing ahead of the ACC champion. It's one of those things where you look at this James Madison team coming from FCS, getting themselves up into baseline Division I within the last 5 years and becoming really good. When you look at this Oregon team, they just don't make mistakes. They put away teams. They don't let teams stay in games. And I think that's the big thing for Oregon. They need to come out Saturday night. They need to score. They need to score at will against a team that is not on their level from an offensive standpoint and from a defensive standpoint and from the ability to have those guys on the field. Dante Moore, I understand you're going to tell me Fernando Mendoza won the Heisman Trophy. And Fernando Mendoza might be the most important player in this bracket to an individual team. I'm willing to say Dante Moore is as important to the Oregon offense and them making a run as Fernando Mendoza is to Kurt Cinetti and the Indiana Hoosiers. This is Moore's first year at quarterback. He's had guys go down. He's had receivers miss time. And he still hasn't missed a beat. I mean, that's the thing that I look at. He's a calming sense that this Oregon team felt like it needed. He makes the good throws. He makes the amazing throws look good. And the biggest thing here is JMU's making a cross-country trip to probably one of, if not the hardest stadium to play in on the West Coast in Autzen Stadium. If it's raining out there, if it's what it's been before, this could get ugly. Like I said, over under is 47.5. Ducks minus 21.5. I'm gonna take the over as the thing that I would bet in this game, because I think there's a chance Oregon hits it by themselves. That being said, take Oregon minus the points in that regard as well. But I wouldn't be surprised if JMU scores some late stuff, maybe as you get the second and third guys in there for Oregon, maybe some seniors, their last game inside Autzen Stadium. If you're Oregon, you have to find a way to score those first couple of touchdowns and really just put the pressure on JMU to kind of force some things. Because if you can do that, then I think you really give yourself a chance in that regard. So take away the big play, take away the long touchdown passes. I think those are two really important things for Oregon to get away with a victory here. So that's the fifth burning question. That is 5 burning questions. The bet of the week, for those of you that want to follow along at home, let me open up my app because I actually put it in right before I decided to start recording this thing. All right, we got a 5-legger here. Plus 1,061 is the odds. It's Oregon money line over 47.5. Under 40.5 in tonight's game, Alabama at Oklahoma. It's A&M money line. It's Tulane plus 17.5. I had a $3 bonus bet, so it was $3 to win $32.16. Another fun bet if you are around the area. I decided tonight, if you want to watch the Netflix fight, I took Anthony Joshua to get the win in round 3 or 4. If you're wanting to gamble in that regard. So those are 2 little quick fun bets for the week. We will be back next week. Next week we'll have some more stuff. I will probably talk about what happened last night in the Great Northeast, depending on what happens the rest of the way through the NFC. The playoff picture will get a little clearer. So we'll talk some more about clinching scenarios and things like that on next week's episode. Again, I appreciate you guys for hanging out with us. Please, again, if you haven't already, please go over to any of our social medias, Facebook, YouTube, Blue Sky, the Twitter, the TikTok, at Huddle Up Podcast. Instagram is at Huddle Up Podcast Inc. The Twitch is Huddle Up Inc. Until Tuesday, where you will see the Brothers Nice, I am Mikey B. We will see you next week for 5 more burning questions.